Well, we have some exciting news.
We have bought land a couple of episodes ago, a handful of episodes ago. We had segment 1 about process in buying land and what we've learned. And now we are in the completion of that, of bought land. And we're going to go over what we've learned so you know more about it, because we've learned far too much about buying land in the last 2.5 months.
You can say that again.
Yes.
But anyway, I am grateful for this process, I think, but that it's almost over. And
which first of all, we bought land. I'll kind of give a little bit here. We bought land that's about 3.5 hours from our residence. The reason why we chose 3.5 hours, which was the max distance in which we had agreed upon prior to the looking at land, was because of the cost. Cost of land 3.5 hours away was essentially a fraction of what the same acreage would cost or does cost near our home. So we kind of went into this whole process going, we don't want MLF land or MFL land, and we don't want National Forest land. And we got both of them after learning about the benefits and the financial benefit of both of those types of properties. So, a couple of things. One, you got to find out how much you can afford, whether you have cash on hand or you go through a loan process and they are able to provide you with X amount of dollar value that you have, and they lock you in with a percentile monthly rate and all that fun stuff that goes with it. So that's where we're at. We looked at very few pieces of land because the type of land we were looking for simply was not available. What does that mean? The type of land we were looking for was within our price range and as large as possible. Now, we could have, Holly, bought 25 different properties. That was 2, 3, 5, 8, 10 acre plots.
Right, but a lot of them were like bogs or marshes or whatever, very, very extremely wetland.
And or when you get to that size, you've got neighbors very, very close to you.
Well, that too. Then there was also lack of proper space.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe we should talk about briefly why we wanted land.
Yes.
So this is something that you need to, if you are going to buy land, you need to determine your why first and then think about your wish list or whatever you want to call it. So our why was because we wanted to camp, and we wanted to camp not around a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And we wanted to, Joey wants to hunt, and I might jump on the hunting train soon. And then also just to explore, to hike, to have a place to go and relax.
So you may think what we ended up with was almost 40 acres of MFL land in a national forest. So that, that's a lot. Just you drive 3.5 hours to camp on 40 acres when you could have bought 10 acres and camped on that 20 minutes from the house. Yes, and yes. However, when we decided to look for land, our goal was how big can we buy for what we have available. We acquired a loan through a loan office in the state of Wisconsin, and this particular loan office, all they do is land loans. So because of that, the benefit on that end was we only have to put 10% down. Many banks and or other loan offices, in some instances, will ask for 20, 30, or even 40% down on the property. So the 10% down was what we were financially able to do in addition to the loan that we have obtained. And the acreage is 40 acres. How big is 40 acres? Here, if you're not familiar with how acreage is, and Holly, you are not familiar with the magnitude of how big 40 acres is.
I literally have no idea.
If you 40 and it's a 40 acre square. So if you start at point A and walk to the property, the east side, then the north side, and then the west side, and back across the south side, you will have walked 1 mile. It is 1 square mile. Quarter mile by quarter mile by quarter mile by quarter mile is 40 acres.
I literally had no idea. We bought a lot of land.
We bought a lot of land. Yeah, we bought a lot of land.
Now, you might think to yourself, why did I go along with this if I didn't realize how much land we bought? But I grew up in the city. I grew up on like probably maybe an eighth of an acre lot. And
big enough to spit across.
But I grew up camping. I grew up spending a lot of time hiking, and I really enjoy being in the great outdoors and having that freedom. I tell people all the time I'm claustrophobic because there's certain, like, I reach a point, it's not that I spend all this time inside, but I reach a point where I'm just like, I just need to get out into nature. And so thinking about that, 40 acres seems like a lot, but these are sold in 40 acre parcels,
right?
Where they are, and also I have a lot to explore,
right? And there was properties in which we saw on the realtor site that had no interest for us whatsoever, because it was all marshy land, but it was 180 acres for like $65,000. That's a lot of land, but it's all just sloppy muck. There's no benefit unless you're, I guess,
like a duck
hunter or waterfowl. That'd be about the only thing. And then when it rains, you're underwater. But yeah, 40 acres, there is a lot of area to explore. It's mainly pine forest, and it's in the MFL program, which stands for
Management Forestry Law Land.
Which is?
So basically, it's a way to cohesively improve the ecosystem and keep the ecosystem going smartly. And you work with the Department of Natural Resources, and you get a huge property tax break.
Most states have this program. There's a few that don't.
And so what happens is that once we have a year to come up with a plan, work with the forester, come up with a plan to manage this land. Yes, we do have to pay the forester for coming up with this plan, and that's okay. And about, I don't know, every 5 to 10 years, somebody will have to have loggers come in and clear off the older trees, which allows the younger trees to grow, and it keeps it so that the older trees don't choke out the younger trees. It also helps prevent forest fires, and it helps prevent incidences where the larger trees might cause harm to other people. So there's a lot of benefits to it, and also the tax break. And I, as somebody who considers myself, a very
tree lover,
conservationist, I like this idea. I like the fact that we bought land in a national forest. I think it's like very cohesive to the way I was brought up, and I like all of it.
Can you buy land in a national forest, and is it easy? It depends on your state and what the price is. For us, this was one of the few properties that we looked at one. We trespassed heavily on it.
On accident.
On accident, yeah. Beautiful property. The way it works is you have got to be very aware on the realtor site when you look at the aerial map. Just because that dot says here's the property doesn't mean the property is where that dot is. You've got to cross-reference and match the parcel number up with the state parcel map to find out that property, that dot is one parcel or several miles away from where the actual property is. We were one property off. The property in which thought we were looking at was not the one that was for sale. The one we looked at was not for sale. It was alongside the road where the dot was. The parcel numbers were all right because we were pulling off the wrong information. And then where the one that we were supposed to look at was more, it wasn't landlocked per se, but it was very close to being landlocked. And that's the other problem when you find really nice pieces of property. They're landlocked, and that means there's no legal accessibility to that particular property. From what I have understood, and I can be completely wrong, but I do know what I read, in certain states, if you buy landlocked property, which is a fraction of the price, like 40 acres for $20,000, you then have to go and try to gain access to that property per the landowners that are surrounding your piece of property. By law, they are supposed to, one of the property owners is by law supposed to grant you a certain width of drivability into your property. However, they don't have to do that unless they're court ordered, because they're like, I want to be a jerk and I'm not going to let you back there. You then have to take your own your own money and hire a lawyer, go to court, and then have the court ordered the landowner or order landowners to allow you to have access to the property that you bought for dirt cheap. So it's getting access, having already an easement, if that is the where the property is a much easier way to look at. I'm not going to buy property unless I have an easement, unless I have a way to get on the property. I'm not going, and that's what we looked at. We were not going to buy or look at property that there was no way of getting on it, whether it was landlocked or it was just a muddy dirt slop road. We're not going to do that. So this has access to the property very easily off of a rock road. And back to the property that we trespassed on. Very beautiful property. And then the next day, the realtor said, "Did you make it on the property?" And we said, "Yeah. Here's some pictures. Here's some questions about the deer stands." And she said, "That's not the property." So we matched numbers up, and she said, "You were on the adjacent property." So she knew about it, and we kind of had all a good laugh. But it was an 8-hour round. It was a whole day wasted, an 8-hour. But we learned what not to do the next time.
Right, and we had fun. It was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. They had 25 inches of snow on the ground.
Well, yeah, but it was like a little adventure.
Oh, yeah, it's a.
But we learned, and we can tell the story and laugh now and cry at the same time. But, and another reason people might ask, why? Okay, I don't want to deal with MFL land. Well, you can get out of the program.
We thought that before.
Yeah. And you can get out of the program. It's going to cost you. You do have to pay back property taxes.
10 years in the state of Wisconsin. It's 10 years, and it's not the property taxes that it's currently under an MFL. It's the real estate property taxes. So, for 40 acres in MFL land or MFL property in the state of Wisconsin, you're looking at about $30 for 40 acres. When you pull it, then that's an open. And explain open and close real quick.
Sure. So closed means that people basically cannot walk on your land, and open means that they can. And so we do have to change it from open to closed, which we can't do, unfortunately, until the beginning of the year. But at the same time, it's okay.
There's so many hundreds and thousands of acres that if people see that there's already an established campsite, anybody that is respectful, they will say, "Oh, going to go to the next parcel that's MFL and try to scout a place to hunt there."
Right. And so it's I think that in my experience, most people who are navigating the North Woods of Wisconsin are respectful of people's property and land,
because nobody knows who's carrying what kind of gun.
Right.
But the closed, the open portion where people have access to it is about $30 for 40 acres. Closed is about $100. If you remove yourself from the program, you have to pay 10 years of back taxes at full rate. And then that yearly tax now on that 40 acres can be upwards of $600 to $1,000 a year.
Yeah. So.
And and there's 25 and 50 year plans on this.
So when we close our land, we don't have to pay. We just have to pay a fee. I think it's like $100 to make it closed. But if we remove ourselves from the program, that's what gets costly.
Yeah, that can be several thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. So what have we learned in this process? Well, I still agree that buying land is a lot easier than trying to register a boat in the state of Wisconsin from somebody you bought from 3 years ago that may or may not be dead.
Okay. What?
When I went to the DNR, in order to switch some paperwork around from the state I previously lived in, within 10 minutes, there was 2 people there that was trying to register or get tags for their boats in which they had purchased in years past because they wanted to put motors on it. And there was more paperwork and more questions about who did you buy this from? And you need to have power of attorney if that person is no longer coherent, or if they're passed on, then their spouse would have legal ability to sign off on the boat in which you purchased, so you can transfer the tags and over to your name. It was a mess. And when they walked away, I just said, "Good luck with your project."
Right.
Because they were frustrated and I was frustrated listening. But the DNR lady, she was telling them what the legalities was. She wasn't making up or trying to frustrate them. It's very, very difficult. And that's a word to anybody that's buying a boat. Just get the tag switched over and get everything switched over and be done with it right at the point of purchase. So we had a couple of real estate agents in which we worked with. One was local, and we weren't getting the answers for the questions that we had.
And it wasn't her fault.
No, she was very aggressive, and that's what you wanted on Fighting For You. But because she was not in the area or close to the area in which these land properties were located, she was basically, in her words, not in the right clique. And they weren't taking her serious because she was so far removed from the area. So she referred us to our current real estate agent, who has navigated us through some of the things. And you've made, and I'm joking, but you've made friends with the DNR because of all the times you've called about MFL and what we can and can't do and the requirements that it is. And the real estate agent was very pleased with us and likes working with us because he doesn't have to educate us every time we make a phone call about what we want to do. We already know what we can and can't do, and there's paperwork and more paperwork.
Right. And you might think to yourself, okay, the DNR is a government-ran organization, and I don't want them involved in my land, and blah 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 blah. And yes,
they allow us to be on the land,
right,
and hunt and fish in all the states that all of us live in. Because of them, that's why we can hunt and fish.
Right. And that's the thing, is that I have made friends with the DNR for a very long time, pretty much my whole life. And this is our decision. So if you want to buy land that does not involve the DNR, by all means, go ahead. But Joey and I are not getting any younger. And this is our dream. And this is what we wanted to do. So sometimes when you want to accomplish something or you want something of your own, you have to look past. I don't think anybody always buys the perfect house right away or whatever. And definitely, a lot of things in life, it's not going to be exactly perfect, and the government is involved in everything. So, it doesn't matter if it's your land or MFL land or whatever. And as somebody such as myself who likes to be part of nature and respect to nature, it's okay. It's fine by me.
Right. And we have learned a number of things. If we knew prior, would we have changed? Not really, because what we have learned hasn't greatly affected the end result of the purchase of land. We like the property in which we purchased. Is there things in which we would rather have instead of what we've got? Absolutely. Everybody has that. But we have to be selective with what's available, what our loan allows for, and the time in which the loan is still available, because there is a certain time frame in which the loan office will only extend the loan out so far.
Right, and it's also interest rates and things like that, and what we can afford.
No matter what you do, you're going to lose money.
Yeah, what you can afford monthly, yada, yada, yada. Like, there's a lot of realities there, and we had to figure out what would work for us financially. And we live a pretty simplistic lifestyle, which is good because it means that it lightens our financial load.
You save pennies on the front end, so you don't have to fight to save pennies on the back end.
Right. And so, but these are all choices we make, just like some people choose to travel a bajillion times a year to foreign countries. We want to live here and drive 3.5 hours to our land, and that's our choice. So
if you are in the process or thinking about buying land, you can certainly reach out to us at twvgshow@gmail.com. And we are not realtors. We are not lawyers. All we can do is offer you our opinion and our experience in order to provide you with more information than what you have now, so you can better utilize the opportunities or get the knowledge in which you need in order to make the best decision for your property.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.